Ilara stood on the metal balcony, staring at the glowing city below. Towers of glass and steel rose into the sky, neon lights blinking in every color. The air was full of noise, alien voices, hovercraft engines, and the distant roar of a crowd. Somewhere in the heart of that city stood the place she had come for, the galaxy's deadliest arena. The arena was famous across every star system. It was a place where the bravest, strongest, and most dangerous fighters came to prove themselves. Over 200 alien races had sent warriors there. Most never returned. The fights were broadcast live across the galaxy. Every match ended the same way, with someone's death. Humans were rare in the arena. The last one had fought 10 years ago, and he lasted only 2 minutes before being crushed by a beast from Krogath. Since then, no human had been foolish enough to try again until now. Ilara was only 18. Most people her age were still in training academies or working small jobs on space stations. But she was not like them. She had grown up on a mining colony at the edge of human space, a harsh world where survival was a daily fight. The mines were dangerous, the air was thin, and accidents were common. Her father had been a miner too, until the cave-in that took his life. After that, she learned to fight for herself. It wasn't strength that kept her alive. It was speed, brains, and the human talent for adapting to anything. Now, standing outside the arena's massive gates, Ilara could feel hundreds of alien eyes on her. Some looked at her with pity, others with amusement. To them, she was already dead. She didn't care. A loud metallic voice echoed through the square. Next challenger, human female, Ilara of Colony 7. The gates began to open. The sound was deep and heavy, like ancient stone grinding against stone. Beyond them lay the arena, a massive pit surrounded by tier after tier of alien spectators. The walls were lined with banners, each showing the symbol of a different warrior who had fought there. Most of those warriors were dead. Ilara stepped inside. The floor was hard and dusty, covered with marks from past battles. There was no smell of blood. The arena's cleaning drone saw to that, but the air carried a weight, a sense of death that no machine could wash away. The crowd was enormous. At least 50,000 aliens filled the seats, their voices merging into a single roaring sound. Some shouted in languages Ilara didn't understand, others just laughed. Above her, in a floating observation box, sat the arena master, a tall alien with skin like polished stone and eyes like burning coals. He wore a crown of silver spikes. His voice carried over the arena with unnatural clarity. A human. This should be quick, he said, his lips curling in a cruel smile. Release the first opponent. A deep rumble shook the ground. The far gate opened, and something stepped through. It was huge, 3 meters tall, its skin covered in thick black armor plates. 2 massive tusks curved forward from its jaw, and its eyes glowed red. The beast's claws were as long as arms, and each step it took left deep cracks in the stone floor. The crowd cheered wildly. Some aliens began placing bets, not on whether Ilara would die, but on how fast. Ilara didn't move. She kept her eyes on the beast, watching how it breathed, how it shifted its weight. She could hear her father's voice in her head. Don't fight like them. Think like you. Use what they don't expect. The beast roared, the sound shaking the air. Then it charged. It moved faster than something its size should be able to. The ground trembled under its weight. Dust rose into the air as it closed the distance. Ilara waited until the last possible moment. Then she jumped sideways, rolling across the ground as the beast slammed into the spot where she had been standing. The impact sent a shockwave through the arena floor, and cracks spiderwebbed out from the point of impact. The crowd laughed, too. She was just running. But Ilara knew better. She had seen something, the way the beast lowered its head before charging, the way its tusks caught on the arena's rough stone. She could use that. The beast turned toward her again. This Time it moved more carefully, swiping with its claws. One strike missed her by inches, slicing a deep groove into the floor. She dodged again, staying light on her feet. Then she saw it, a low section of the wall behind her, where the stone jutted out at an odd angle. If she could get the beast to charge at her there, she ran toward it. The crowd booed, thinking she was trying to escape. The beast took the bait. It roared and charged again, faster this time. Elara waited, her heart pounding. She didn't think about dying. She thought about winning. At the last second, she dove to the side. The beast's tusks slammed into the stone, lodging deep into the wall. It roared and pulled, but the harder it struggled, the more trapped it became. Elara didn't hesitate. She grabbed a broken shard of stone from the ground, ran forward, and drove it into the soft spot under the beast's jaw. The arena went silent. Then the beast collapsed. Elara stepped back, breathing hard. Blood pooled around the body. She looked up at the arena master, who was staring at her with narrowed eyes. She had lasted more than 2 minutes. She had done the impossible, and this was only the beginning. The beast's body still twitched on the arena floor. Its blood steamed in the warm air. The crowd had fallen silent for a moment, as if they could not believe what had happened. Then the noise returned, louder than before. Some shouted in shock, others laughed in disbelief. Many were angry. To them, this was not entertainment. This was an insult. A human, a small and fragile creature, had killed a champion beast in under a minute. From the floating observation box, the arena master leaned forward. His eyes glowed like molten metal. "Interesting," he said, his voice dripping with amusement and danger. "Let's see how long the human can keep her luck." Elara stood in the center of the arena, her chest rising and falling quickly. Her arms ached from the force she had used to drive the stone shard into the beast's neck. Her heart was pounding, but her face was calm. She did not want the aliens to see fear. The far gate groaned again. A deep rumble spread across the ground, but this time it wasn't a single creature. 4 shadows appeared in the opening. The crowd cheered wildly as the figures stepped into the light. They were gladiators, tall, muscular aliens from 4 different worlds. Each one carried a weapon, a curved plasma blade, a heavy hammer that glowed with heat, a whip made of electrified chains, and a long spear tipped with something sharp enough to split stone. The announcer's voice boomed across the arena. 4 champions against 1 human. Elara's mind raced. She had no weapon now. The stone shard she used earlier had snapped in half, and the beast's body was too far to reach before the gladiators got to her. They began to circle her, moving in perfect formation. Clearly, they had fought together before. The one with the spear jabbed forward, testing her reaction. She dodged, but another gladiator swung the whip toward her legs. Sparks exploded when the whip hit the stone. She jumped back, barely avoiding. Her father's voice echoed in her head. "They will expect you to fight like them. Don't make them fight like you." She glanced at the arena floor. It was covered with cracks and loose stones from the beast's earlier charge. The idea came quickly, dangerous, but possible. The gladiator with the plasma blade charged. First, she sidestepped, making him stumble slightly. In that moment, she grabbed a loose stone the size of her fist and threw it at the one with the spear. The alien flinched, raising the spear to block it. That gave her a small opening. She rushed toward the fallen beast's body. The crowd roared in excitement, thinking she was desperate. She grabbed the broken tusk from its head, heavy, sharp, and long enough to be a weapon, now armed. She turned to face the 4. The one with the whip attacked again, but she ducked under it and stabbed forward with the tusk. The point hit the alien's armor, but instead of piercing, it slid off. Still, the force made him step back. The hammer wielder came next. His weapon glowed bright red, the heat distorting the air. He swung down with a roar. Alara rolled aside, and the hammer smashed into the floor, sending pieces of stone flying. The shockwave made her stumble, but she used it to her advantage, grabbing one of the flying stones and throwing it at the whip wielder's head. It hit hard. He staggered, but she had no time to finish him. The plasma blade slashed toward her, the heat singing her arm. She retreated, circling to keep the four from surrounding her completely. The crowd was on its feet now. They expected her to fall any second, but she refused to give them the satisfaction. She noticed something. The spear wielder was taller than the rest, and his weapon was long, but his footwork was slow. If she could make him attack wildly, he might hit one of his own allies. She made her move. She rushed straight at him, feinting left at the last second. As expected, he thrust the spear forward. She ducked under it, and the tip slammed into the hammer wielder's chest armor, making him stumble back. The formation broke. That was all she needed. She went for the whip wielder first, slashing his leg with the tusk. He screamed and dropped the whip. She snatched it before it hit the ground, the electrified chains buzzing in her hands. Now she had range. The plasma blade wielder charged again, but she cracked the whip across his face, the electricity making him scream in pain. He fell to his knees. The spear wielder backed away, trying to keep distance. She threw the whip's tip around his weapon and yanked hard, pulling it from his grip. The hammer wielder roared in anger and came at her with both hands on his weapon, but she sighed and drove the tusk into his leg. He collapsed, dropping the hammer. Less than 60 seconds had passed since the first gladiator moved toward her. The crowd went insane. Some were cheering her name, others were booing, but no one was quiet. Above, the arena master watched with a face that was hard to read. His eyes burned, but there was something else there now. Not just amusement, but calculation. Alara stood in the center of the arena, whip in one hand, tusk in the other, her chest heaving. She had survived the first minute of hell, but she knew it was only going to get worse. The dust was still settling when Alara stood over the 4 fallen gladiators. They weren't dead, not yet, but they were too injured to keep fighting. The whip crackled faintly in her hand, its electricity fading now that it was disconnected from its power source. The heavy tusk, stained dark, hung at her side. The crowd was louder than ever. Some alien voices chanted her name in strange accents. Others shouted insults. Many were angry, but they couldn't deny what they had seen. A human had beaten 4 trained killers in less than a minute. From above, the arena master leaned forward in his floating box, his sharp crown catching the light. His eyes were cold and dangerous. He spoke into a small device, and a voice echoed across the arena. "Enough games. Bring in the next test." A heavy clang rang through the air. A metal door on the far side of the arena slid open. But what came out wasn't a creature or a normal fighter. It was a machine, 6-legged, made of black steel, with glowing red eyes and spinning blades on its sides. It moved low to the ground like a predator, but its movements were too smooth, too perfect. The crowd gasped. This was not normal. The arena was known for its beasts and gladiators, not war machines. "This is against the rules," a voice muttered somewhere in the crowd. Alara understood immediately. The arena master didn't want her to win again. He wanted her gone. The machine's legs clicked against the stone floor, moving fast, scanning her with its glowing eyes. A soft hum filled the air as small panels on its sides opened, revealing miniature plasma cannons. Her father's voice came back to her in her mind. "When the rules change faster." She dropped the whip. It was useless against the machine, and switched her grip on the tusk, holding it like a spear. The machine charged. Its speed was terrifying. In seconds it closed half the distance between them. Plasma shots flashed past her, melting small craters into the stone. She ran, keeping her eyes on the ground, searching for anything she could use. One shot grazed her shoulder, the heat searing. her skin. She bit back a cry and kept moving. The machine reached the spot where she had been standing seconds ago, its spinning blades slicing the air. She could feel the wind from them. She needed a plan. Charging it head-on was suicide. Her eyes went to the fallen gladiators. The hammer lay a few meters away, glowing faintly from the heat still inside it. That could work. The machine turned toward her again, its cannons charging. She sprinted for the hammer, dodging shots that turned the floor into molten cracks. She dove forward, grabbed the weapon, and rolled just as another blast hit where her head had been. The hammer was heavy, almost too heavy for her to lift, but she didn't need to swing it like the gladiator had. She needed its heat. The machine rushed her again, blades spinning. She waited until it was almost on her, then dropped to one knee and slammed the hot hammerhead into the stone floor. The heat reacted with the arena's cracked surface, creating a burst of molten rock. The machine's sensors flickered from the sudden light and heat. That was her chance. She hurled the tusk like a spear. It spun through the air and slammed into one of the machine's glowing eyes. Sparks flew. The machine shrieked in a high metallic tone, its legs stumbling. The crowd roared. They loved unexpected moves like this, but the arena master didn't look pleased. His hand clenched on the railing of his viewing box. The machine recovered quickly, its remaining eye locking onto her. It switched tactics, lowering its body and rushing at her like an animal. She couldn't outrun it now. She gripped the hammer with both hands and waited, her feet digging into the dusty floor. As the machine lunged, she stepped sideways and slammed the hammer against one of its spinning blades. The heat and force snapped the blade off in a shower of sparks. Metal screeched against stone as the machine crashed. Skidding past her, she turned, breathing hard, and ran toward it before it could rise again. One more strike. She brought the hammer down on the glowing core at its center. There was a flash of light, a burst of heat, and then the machine exploded into a cloud of smoke and metal shards. Silence fell for just a moment. Then the crowd erupted. They had never seen anything like it. Ilara stood in the middle of the debris, coughing from the smoke, her skin covered in dust and small burns. She looked up at the arena master, who stared down at her without expression. But she could see it in his eyes now, not just anger, worry. She had broken more than just his expectations. She had broken his rules, and she knew what that meant. He wasn't going to play fair anymore. The smoke from the destroyed machine drifted into the hot air, curling up toward the night sky above the open arena. Pieces of metal still sparked on the floor. The crowd was wild, some cheering, some booing, many arguing in their own languages. Illa stood in the middle of the mess, her chest rising and falling fast. Her shoulder burned from the plasma graze. Her arms ached from swinging the heavy hammer, and her throat felt dry from the smoke. But she didn't let her knees shake. She refused to show weakness. High above, in the floating box, the arena master sat back in his chair. His stone-like face was unreadable, but his glowing eyes followed her every move. Slowly, he leaned toward a tall alien in black armor, one of his advisors, and whispered something. The advisor gave a short nod and pressed a button. A new gate opened at first. Ilara thought it was another gladiator, but then she saw the figure's strange armor, smooth silver plates that covered the whole body, no visible weapons. The helmet had no visor, just a single strip of red light where eyes should be. The fighter moved slowly, almost lazily, as if in no hurry. The crowd grew quiet. This was different. Ilara gripped the broken hammer she still carried, keeping her eyes on the newcomer. Something about the way the fighter walked made her uneasy. The announcer's voice echoed across the arena. The Mindhunter enters the field. The name sent a ripple through the audience. Some aliens shifted uncomfortably. Others looked excited. Ilara didn't know what a Mindhunter was, but she guessed it wasn't good news. The silver-armored fighter stopped a few meters away from her. It tilted its head slightly, as if studying her. Then, without warning, a sharp pain stabbed into her mind. She staggered. The arena floor seemed to tilt under her feet. The crowd blurred, the noise twisting into strange echoes. Memories flashed, her father trapped under rock, her mother crying, the sound of explosions in the mining tunnels. It's not real. She forced herself to breathe, but the Mindhunter kept walking toward her, and the pain in her head grew stronger. She understood now. This wasn't about strength. This was about breaking her mind. She dropped the hammer. It was too heavy to swing in this state, and instead focused on staying on her feet. Her vision was splitting into two images, and her heart raced. The Mindhunter raised one hand. The air shimmered between them, and suddenly she could see her father standing there, alive, smiling, reaching for her. Her breath caught. For a moment she wanted to run to him, but then she noticed something. Her father's eyes. They were wrong. The color was off, and the smile didn't reach them. She narrowed her eyes. You're not him. The image shattered like glass, and the pain in her head flared. She dropped to one knee, clutching her skull. The Mindhunter stepped closer, its shadow falling over her. She remembered her mother's words. Humans win because we adapt faster than anyone else. If the Mindhunter fought with the mind, she would fight back the same way, with her thoughts. She forced herself to think of something else, something that didn't belong to her. The way the arena smelled, the sound of 100 alien voices, the taste of metal in the air. She imagined building walls in her mind, shutting out the invader. The pressure weakened for a second. That was enough. She lunged forward, grabbing the Mindhunter's arm. The touch sent another wave of pain through her skull, but she ignored it. She slammed her knee into its side, right under the armor plates. It stumbled, clearly not expecting her to get close. She grabbed the broken tusk, still hanging from her belt, and swung it upward, aiming for the gap under its helmet. But the Mindhunter caught her wrist, twisting it painfully. Her vision blurred again, memories flashing fast. Every mistake, every moment of fear she'd ever felt. She gritted her teeth. Not today. Using her free hand, she pulled the hammer from the ground and swung it at the Mindhunter's knee joint. The heavy blow made a loud crack, and the silver fighter dropped to one side. The mental pressure vanished instantly. Elara gasped for air, her head pounding, but she didn't stop. She raised the hammer again and slammed it down on the helmet. Sparks burst out as the red light flickered and died. The Mindhunter collapsed, motionless. The crowd exploded into noise. Some shouted in disbelief, others cheered wildly. Elara stood over the fallen fighter, breathing hard, sweat dripping down her face. She had won, not with strength, but with her mind. Above the arena, Master leaned forward, his expression sharp and dangerous now. She could see it clearly. This wasn't fun for him anymore. She wasn't just surviving. She was winning, and he would never allow that for long. The battlefield was chaos. Smoke, dust, and the smell of burning metal filled the air. Alien weapons fired bright green beams that cut through steel like paper. Explosions shook the ground every few seconds, and the sound of shouting mixed with the screams of the wounded. In the middle of it all, Captain Ryan moved like a man possessed. His helmet visor was cracked, and his armor was covered in scorch marks, but his eyes were sharp. He could hear his heart pounding in his ears, but his mind stayed focused. The alien forces were larger, faster, and stronger. Their technology was far beyond anything humans had built. Yet Ryan had something they didn't: the instinct to survive at any cost. He didn't think of himself as a hero. He thought of himself as a man who refused to lose. The human squad was pinned down behind a broken wall. "We can't hold this position," shouted Private Harris, his voice shaking. Ryan scanned the area. The aliens had them surrounded on 3 sides. The only open path was a narrow alley filled with debris. "We move now," Ryan ordered. But sir, no time for fear. Move. Ryan's tone left no room for argument. They ran, ducking under falling debris, sliding over broken metal, their boots splashing through puddles of dirty water. Laser fire hit the walls around them, sending sparks into the air. One soldier stumbled, and Ryan grabbed him by the arm, pulling him forward. The alley ended in an open courtyard, and that's when Ryan saw it, an alien gunship landing. Its cannons turned toward them, ready to fire. Scatter, Ryan yelled. The squad split in different directions, but the gunship fired a burst that threw 2 soldiers off their feet. Ryan dove behind a piece of wreckage, his ears ringing from the blast. He looked around. The aliens were advancing. The humans had seconds before they were overrun. In moments like this, most would freeze, but Ryan's mind started working faster. He noticed the gunship's landing gear was close to a pile of unstable rubble from a collapsed building. An idea sparked in his head. It wasn't logical, it wasn't safe, but it was instinct. Ryan signaled to Harris, "Cover me. What are you doing ending this?" He broke from cover and sprinted toward the rubble. The alien soldiers spotted him and fired, but he zigzagged, making himself a harder target. Beams of energy scorched the ground inches from his boots. Ryan reached the rubble and started pushing against a large piece of broken wall. It didn't move at first, but he used every bit of strength he had left. His arms screamed in pain, but slowly, the wall shifted. The gunship pilots saw him and aimed the cannons, but Harris and the others opened fire, forcing the aliens to take cover for a moment. The wall finally gave way, and the pile of rubble slid forward, collapsing onto the gunship's landing gear. The weight crushed part of the frame, tilting the craft to one side. The pilot tried to lift off, but the damage was too severe. Ryan didn't waste the chance. He ran forward, climbed onto the tilted gunship, and pulled a grenade from his belt. He yanked the pin, dropped it into an open vent, and jumped clear. The explosion ripped through the ship, sending fire and smoke into the air. Alien soldiers screamed as the shockwave knocked them off their feet. Ryan landed hard, rolling across the ground. His ears rang, and his body ached, but he pushed himself up. The surviving aliens were retreating, their lines broken. The human squad cheered, but Ryan didn't smile. He knew this wasn't the end. It was just one battle in a much larger war. Later, that night, while the others rested, Ryan sat alone near the remains of the gunship. He thought about what had happened. There was no plan. No training exercise had prepared him for that moment. It was pure human instinct, the ability to see an opening, take a risk, and act without hesitation. That was what made humans dangerous to the aliens. They fought not just with weapons, but with creativity, desperation, and willpower. Ryan looked up at the dark sky. Somewhere out there, the enemy was preparing for the next attack. But so was he, and as long as he was alive, he would keep fighting, not because it was his duty, but because it was in his nature. The war was far from over, but Ryan understood one thing very clearly. Machines could be stronger, aliens could be smarter, but nothing in the galaxy could match the unpredictable, relentless force of human instinct. The battlefield was silent, but not peaceful. The air was heavy, filled with the smell of smoke and burned metal. The ruins of the alien fortress stood in the distance, glowing with faint red light from its wounded power core. Human and alien soldiers lay scattered across the ground, some alive, some gone. Every survivor knew one thing: it was not over yet. Commander Ryan stood at the edge of the crater, breathing hard. His armor was scratched, his visor cracked, and his right arm ached from the last fight. He could feel the heat from the destroyed alien tank behind him, but he did not care. His eyes were fixed on the figure standing across the crater, the alien warlord. Shirak was tall, his black armor shining even under the dim battlefield light. His 4 arms each carried a weapon, 2 plasma blades and 2 jagged shields. His voice echoed across the crater. "Human, you have fought well," Shrek said in a deep growl. "But now, your resistance ends." Ryan's grip tightened around his pulse rifle. "We finish this here. No more invasions. No more deaths." His voice was calm, but his heart was pounding around them. The few remaining soldiers stepped back, forming a wide circle. Everyone knew this was not a fight between armies anymore. This was a fight between two leaders. Whoever won would decide the fate of the war. Shrek moved first, fast, almost a blur. His plasma blades cut through the air, glowing with deadly heat. Ryan dodged to the side, rolling across the dirt, and fired 3 quick shots. The blue pulses hit Jarek's shields, sending sparks into the air. "You are quick," Jarek said, stepping closer, "but I am faster." The warlord leaped forward, striking with both blades. Ryan blocked the first strike with his rifle, but the second sliced through the weapon, snapping it in half. Ryan dropped the broken rifle and pulled out his combat knife. The fight became close and brutal. Ryan ducked under one blade, slashed Jarek's side, then jumped back before the alien could grab him. Jarek roared in pain. His armor cracked where the knife had hit. "You think a small blade can kill me?" Jarek growled. Ryan didn't answer. He was already moving, looking for an opening. His mind was focused, ignoring the pain in his arm and the fatigue in his legs. The alien attacked again, swinging his blades in a deadly rhythm. Sparks flew each time metal met metal. Ryan's knife scraped against Jarek's armor, leaving marks but not breaking through. The fight dragged on, each second heavier than the last. Finally, Jarek slammed one of his shields into Ryan's chest, knocking him back. Ryan fell hard, his knife skidding across the ground. Jarek stood over him, raising both blades. "This is the end, human," Jarek said. But Ryan was not finished. His hand reached for his side pouch and pulled out a small EMP grenade. He pressed the trigger and slammed it against Jarek's chest armor. There was a loud crack of electricity. Blue sparks danced over Jarek's body, his armor systems shutting down. The plasma blades flickered and died. Ryan jumped up, grabbed his fallen knife, and with one final shout, drove it deep into the exposed joint of Jarek's armor. The alien roared, staggered, and fell to his knees. "It's over," Ryan said quietly. Jarek's eyes glowed faintly for a moment, before dimming completely. The warlord fell forward, hitting the ground with a heavy thud. The battlefield went silent again, but this time, it was a different kind of silence. The humans had won. Ryan stood there, breathing hard, the knife still in his hand. Around him, human soldiers began to cheer, their voices rising in victory. The alien forces, seeing their leader fall, dropped their weapons and surrendered. One soldier ran to Ryan. "Sir, you did it. The war is over." Ryan looked at the ruined fortress in the distance, smoke rising into the dark sky. He didn't smile. He didn't feel joy yet. He only felt relief. "We've ended the fight," he said. "Now, we rebuild." The sun began to rise on the horizon, casting light over the broken battlefield. It was the first sunrise in years, without the shadow of war. But deep inside, Ryan knew this victory came at a cost. Too many friends would never see this day. And somewhere, in the far reaches of space, there might be another enemy watching. For now, though, humanity stood victorious, because one man refused to give up, even when the odds were impossible. The battlefield was silent for a moment, the kind of silence that only comes before the storm. Smoke curled through the shattered metal walls, and the acrid scent of burnt circuits filled the air. Above the ruined station, the black void of space glittered coldly, hiding the fleet that still waited to strike. Captain Ryan's breathing was steady, but inside, every muscle screamed with exhaustion. He had fought for hours, maybe days. It was hard to keep track. Now, the mission had come down to this. 17 minutes. 17 minutes to hold the control core, long enough for the human fleet to finish charging the planetary defense cannon. 17 minutes to decide if Earth lived or died. The alien warlord, Zoreth, stood at the far end of the chamber. His armor was jagged, painted in the deep crimson of his people's royal guard. His eyes glowed with cold fury. 17 minutes. Zorath growled in his native tongue, the translation chip whispering into Rion's ear. You cannot win. You are one human, and I am the destroyer of worlds. Rion didn't move. He kept his rifle trained but his finger off the trigger. He knew Zorath wanted him to attack first, to waste energy. Maybe, Rion said, his voice calm, but humans do strange things when the clock is ticking. They circled each other, the hum of the control core vibrating through the floor. Rion's mind was calculating every second, every movement. 17 minutes. He didn't need to kill Zorath, just needed to keep him busy. Zoreth lunged, his energy, blade flashing. Rion dodged, feeling the heat of the blade graze his armor. The impact of their movements echoed in the empty chamber. Each clash was like a drumbeat, counting down the seconds. 16 minutes. Zorath struck again, his style aggressive and overwhelming. Rion blocked with his rifle, sparks flying as the blades scorched the weapon's casing. His arms ached, but he forced himself to keep moving. 15 minutes. The station shuddered. Somewhere far above, human ships were still holding the enemy fleet at bay. Rion could hear faint chatter in his ear orders. Screams, bursts of static, but he tuned it out. His focus was here, on the single enemy in front of him. Zorath snarled. You fight like prey, yet you refuse to fall. That's the thing about humans, Rion said between breaths. We're stubborn. 14 minutes. Zorath's next swing sent Rion tumbling against a wall. Pain shot through his side. He gasped, but rolled away just as the alien's blade pierced the metal where his chest had been a moment ago. His rifle was gone, slid across the floor. Now it was blade against blade. 13 minutes. Rion drew his combat knife. It looked small, compared to Zorath's weapon, but size wasn't everything. He kept moving, letting the alien chase him in tight circles around the control core. The core's pulsing light made their shadows dance across the walls, like two predators locked in an endless hunt. 12 minutes. Zorath's strikes grew faster. He was getting angry. Rion smiled despite the burning in his lungs. Anger made people reckless, alien or human. That was what he was counting on. 11 minutes. The chamber lights flickered. Somewhere, systems were failing. Rion knew they had to be close to overload. He ducked under another swing, slashing across Zorath's arm. The alien roared, his blood dark and thick against the floor. 10 minutes. Almost halfway, Rion said, taunting him. You getting tired? Zorath's answer was a roar as he swung with all his strength. Rion sidestepped, but the blow was so strong, it cracked part of the core's casing. Sparks rained down. 9 minutes. Rion was breathing hard now. Every move was draining him. His knife felt heavy, but he kept his eyes locked on Zorath, never showing weakness. 8 minutes. Another strike. Another dodge. Another spark of pain in his ribs. His vision blurred for a second, but he forced it clear. He could not fall now. 7 minutes. Zorath charged. This time, Rion didn't dodge. He stepped in, too close for the alien's blade to be effective, and drove his knife into Zorath's side. The alien howled, but didn't stop. They crashed into a control console, alarms screaming around them. 6 minutes. Both were bleeding now. Both were exhausted, yet neither gave an inch. Rion felt the heat of the core burning at his back. 5 minutes. Zorath swung wildly. Rion ducked, kicked his legs out from under him, and sent the alien crashing to the ground. But Zorath rolled back up, faster than expected. 4 minutes. The cum in Rion's ear crackled. Captain, cannon, at 85%, hold your ground. 3 minutes. Rion blocked another blow, the impact rattling his bones. Come on, he muttered. Just a little. Longer. 2 minutes. Zoreth roared, one last time, and charged. Rion sidestepped, used the alien's momentum, and slammed him against the core. The shockwave of energy made both of them stagger. 1 minute. The cannon's charge reached maximum. In the distance, a bright light tore through the darkness as Earth's defense fired. The enemy fleet began to scatter. Rion looked at Zoreth, who was struggling to stand. Time's up, he said. The blast from the cannon shook the station, and the alien warlord collapsed. Rion stood in the middle of the chaos, breathing heavily. 17 minutes had passed. Humanity had survived, and for that, history would remember him not for killing Zoreth, but for outlasting him. 17 minutes to immortality,